Why, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Josie Dumont podcast. I'm your coach and host, Josie, and today I am joined by the incredible Alexandra White, who's the CEO and founder of UNVAELD, an award-winning diversity and inclusion platform, and it's a mission to transform workplaces across the UK by making their spaces more diverse, accessible, and inclusive. And within a short amount of time, like really short amount of time, she has achieved incredible milestones. So it's with no surprise that I'm just so stoked to welcome you to the pod, Alexandra.
Thank you so much, Josie. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, I'm sure I have to say, like, my intro didn't do you justice. So I would love to ask you right away, what got you to where you are today?
So it's actually a not so funny story. I started a job last year in May, so May 2023, which was my dream job. I was so excited to start. And it would be a marketing and recruitment role within diversity and inclusion. So I went on holiday. So I traveled the whole of Europe, ready to start this job, turned down 4 other job offers to begin it. And then after 2 weeks, I was fired. So that wasn't great. And I was really sad. But I was fired through no fault of my own because I actually asked to be compensated fairly, essentially. There was a lot in the interview that I wasn't informed about, like having to work an extra, I think it worked out to be about 36 days per year without being paid for it. So when I did find that out, I obviously did ask to be compensated. And in response, I was let go. So I was just a bit sad after that experience. I felt really like let down because of how excited I was about starting. And then I just decided to create a platform where people who experience similar things to me could go and get emotional support from people. Because as you know, because you are on our platform, we have a range of different professional help resources there available for people where they can request a 1-hour free session. And then off the back of that, obviously have more. So it was the emotional support side of things that got me to create the platform. And then since then, it's been just over a year now. It's kind of pivoted slightly, and we still have all of the same original structure of our platform, but we focus so much on diversity and inclusion because a lot of the emotional support requests we were getting given were from people who fit certain demographics who are maybe usually forgotten in the workplace. So that's what started the platform.
It is such an incredible journey. And obviously, as you say, like the thing that kicked it off, it wasn't really fun. You mentioned yourself, like you felt really sad. So how did you navigate that time? Because you were like so excited to obviously start that new role and then let down. But then at the same time, it sounds like you were still like, as soon as you got the idea then for your business, there must have been like excitement as well, but maybe also kind of like fear around the uncertainty of like, how does it work out? Will it work out? How was it for you?
Yes, I've always been someone who's quite entrepreneurial. And I've always struggled to see myself working full time, 9 to 5 for the rest of my life for someone else, because I am someone who really does value freedom and flexibility. So I have always had something that I've done on the side since I think 2019. So coming up to 5 years now. It actually is 5 years. So it wasn't out of the ordinary for me to decide to create something new. It was just fueled by the negative feelings that I had in the time. So navigating it wasn't easy, if I'm being honest, but I do obviously have good friendships, and I was able to lean on people. And then this project kind of took my mind off it a bit as well, because I was able to put those negative feelings into helping other people who have gone through similar things. And you find speaking to people that everyone always does have a story about their workplace. Like no one I've ever spoken to doesn't. So it's just building off the back of that really, and helping people to get the support that they need. Yeah.
So what would you say was like the key support that you got in that time to help you? But because I know you have a coach as well, right?
I work with some coaches. Yes. At the minute I have a business coach only. Yeah.
So are you happy to share and give like some insights on what you're working on in that regard, to just see like a little bit of behind the scenes of what it might also take from the mindset perspective, or kind of like the behavioral perspective as well, to lead a business?
Yeah, definitely. So I think having someone to hold you accountable
Mm.
is really important. It is very easy to get sidetracked, especially if you're someone like me that juggles about 50 things at once. So having someone to speak with regularly, because I meet with my coach bi-weekly, and she just relays everything that I said I would do the week before and asks me how it's going, really does help, because I now know I'm meeting with my coach, Natalie is her name, in 2 weeks' time. And I need to now do all of these things before I see her, or I'm going to have to come on the call and say I haven't done the thing. And I think generally what helps in terms of like personality tweaks or even just being really present in the moment is to try and be very intentional. So you need to figure out exactly what it is that you want, and then regularly check in to see if your actions are in alignment with it. So for every single thing you do say yes to, you're also saying no to something else. So you want to make sure that all the yeses that you do say yes to are in alignment with that end goal.
Are you happy to share your end goal?
So I'm not 100% sure what my end goal is for the business yet, because I am someone who prefers to plan in the shorter term and then go from there. I find that sometimes, and I know other people can relate to that, especially if they are neurodivergent, if you plan too far in advance, it can feel a bit overwhelming. It can feel a bit like you're very far away from achieving what it is that you want. But what helps me is working in shorter increments. So, for example, one of the things that we're launching in my business currently is a membership portal. And me having a goal of, for example, now just getting one customer is the one thing I'm working towards. And then once I have the one customer and that goal is achieved, I will extend that further and be like, okay, I've gotten one, now I want 10. And then from 10, it could be maybe I want 25. I'm working in those steps and just making sure that in my day to day, I'm doing things to get me closer to that goal. So end goal, it doesn't have to be the very, very end. It can just be the goal that you're working towards at the minute.
I love that though, because that's breaking down the big goal. And as you say, it can feel quite scary if you dare to be maybe a bit too delusional or a bit too big. But for some people, this is the driver they need to have, like, oh my gosh, I have this big, huge, massive dream. And for them, it works well. But for some others, it might just be like, oh, maybe it's a little bit too big. So can we make it a bit more realistic? And just by breaking it down, that already helps so much. And just starting like with the small steps, obviously, as you say, like get one customer first, then 10, then 25, and then we go from there.
Yeah, I definitely prefer to work like that. It's just how my brain is wired, I think. But I do other things because I do have, I guess, longer term goals, which maybe are not financial, but you need finances for. For example, the type of house I want to live in, the type of area I want to live in. So I have like a vision board with all of those things on it. So I can see every day what I'm working towards. But in terms of actual milestones, I always just set them to be achievable. I think there's actually something that they said about SMART goals. So
Yeah.
do you know what? I don't actually remember what the acronym stands for now. I don't know if
Specific,
it's
specific, measurable, achievable, or attainable. Yeah. Relevant and time bound.
Yeah, those kind of goals really help me because they are very specific and they're very, I know exactly when I'm going to hit it by. But with some other goals, for example, I want to make my first £100,000. That to me just feels slightly hard to measure because for you to get there, you need to also get to like £10,000, £50,000. What if you get there way ahead of when you want to, but your 100K goal you've set for the end of the year, for example? I think I just like to do it in steps that feel achievable because it makes me feel more comfortable with the idea and like it's more in reach.
And speaking of achievement and goals, so one thing I always say is it is so, so crucial to also obviously celebrate your wins, especially if someone maybe has imposter syndrome, because we are so quick to just be like, okay, we tick the box, we've done that, on to the next thing. And we don't even realize or take really ownership because we don't reflect on it or take in the moment that we actually achieved something. So what were your greatest achievements so far in your business that you're just bursting of pride for?
So we've won 2 investment pitches, which is
That's great.
really, really cool. And we've had our first ever in-person event, which was actually my end goal starting the business, funnily enough. I was like, if I can do one event this year, then I would be happy. Like that is my goal. And just because I'm someone who loves networking events, as you know, because I actually
Yes.
met you at a networking event for
Yeah.
NatWest. So those are the 3 things I am obviously the most proud of. I will say, with the question you asked me, I am someone who can get in the habit of not celebrating my wins. And I am the type of person that's like, okay, I've achieved this. So like, now what? What's the next goal? And I do think it is really important to just slow down because you can forget how far you've come. And it is something that happens to me regularly because I will host my first ever event and I'm like, okay, when are we doing the next one? And I haven't actually focused on
Yes.
the fact that this took me like 6 months to do. So maybe we should slow down and, just sink in all of the things that have happened as a result. So yeah, I think that's important. That's definitely something I'm working on. I don't really have any tips to share how other people can do that because it's something that I struggle with myself.
Well, the one thing you just did is literally just remembering them, reminding yourself of what you have actually done, because these are huge things. Like, so many people are scared to even try to go for them, or they are like, oh, one day I will do an in-person event, or one day I might ask for finances, or one day I might work on like speaking skills, because I know you've done that in order to prepare for your pitch, right? But they stay stuck in the fear of not doing it. But you have actually, so this is really a kudos moment, a celebration moment for you, Alexandra, to just be like, yes, you've done it. And this is truly, truly amazing. So just take those time and dwell. That's the word I was looking for. Dwell in those moments for a little bit, because pat on your back, like, this is massive. I'm super proud of you.
Thank you so much. I think where I kind of struggle with things like that, and you were right. I did do a lot of public speaking classes in order to prepare for my investment pitch and for the event I did because I had to host it and speak. And that is really out of my comfort zone. I usually hate stuff like that. But I wanted to work on overcoming fears this year. But what I find is because I put so much work into the things that I am working towards, I get really burnt out afterwards. So celebrating them also feels like an additional thing that I have to do. So
Oh.
I think I think it's just like striking a balance, and I haven't really worked out how to do it yet, if I'm being 100%.
So that's still open to do, and that's great. There's always room for improvement.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're never perfect. Everyone is a human. Everyone has areas that they do need to work on. And I guess not being too hard on yourself if you haven't got it all figured out yet. I think we're always changing, we're always evolving, and there is no right way to do things.
Exactly. I always say, like, there's only your
Yeah.
way and your timeline. So don't be too hard to yourself. Like, be compassionate to yourself. And one perspective shift that helps also a lot of my clients, for example, is to just think of talking to yourself as if you were talking to your best friend. Because you would never tell your best friend, like, how dare you like did this wrong, or that you didn't do this on time. Like, this is horrible. Like, this, you're not good enough, or like all of those kind of things that we might sometimes end up telling ourselves in those moments. So just switching that and be like, if I would see myself as my own best friend, how would I then talk to myself? That's hugely different.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I actually saw this reel on Instagram the other day, and it was split into 2 parts. The first part was like, why did I do that? I'm such a failure or something. And then the next part was, I needed that lesson to grow. And it's such a mindset shift that can get you out of thinking in the past and just focusing on the present. And it is true, we are very hard on ourselves as a human race. And I
Yeah.
think we can often forget that other people are going through the exact same struggles as us. And maybe if we were all just a bit more open and shared our experiences, we would find that the things we're going through are not uncommon. And maybe just give ourselves a bit more grace because it is needed at times, definitely.
That is so true. And that's also kind of like why I'm obviously doing this podcast, because this just opens up this opportunity for people to share also those things that we might not always talk about, but it makes them more normal. And people suddenly realize, oh, not everything is just like picture book perfect. This is actually how it is. We're all working through things. And that's totally okay. We're not machines, we're not robots who can just show up and do everything perfectly all the time. It's just not how it works. So to learn that it's totally normal is also something that really helps to just generate that compassion and be like, actually, it's okay. It's so okay.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I know from myself, I sometimes struggle with that because I'm someone who is so motivated and so ambitious. Like, I want to hit my goals really, really quickly. And sometimes I can feel super frustrated, and I might end up comparing myself to other people on social media who seem to have things figured out, when in reality, we're all going through our own internal struggles, and you can't really see them just looking at someone's profile. In fact, a lot of the time, people will only show you the perfect parts of their life that they want you to see because maybe they're selling something, or you just don't really open up generally and share your vulnerabilities for the whole wide world to see. I know, for example, one of the things I struggled with going into business was wanting to go from 0 to 100, but also maintain the level of lifestyle I had, which means I had to work at the same time,
Yeah.
which was really frustrating because it's like, okay, fine, I have this part-time job, but I kind of want to be doing my business stuff all the time. But I still also want the lifestyle I have. I want to be able to go out and see my friends. I want to go on holiday. So I think that was quite a struggle for me of like knowing what to do. And I've just kind of embraced doing it at a pace which feels comfortable for me, rather than putting so much pressure on myself to do things a certain way when I know that that's probably going to put me in a less clear and less focused mental state, because I'm thinking about all of the things that I need to do financially because I live in zone 1 in central London.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know that's something, for example, I've struggled with social media, and not giving myself enough grace. But it's a progress, isn't it? Everything is process.
It truly is. What are maybe some other tips that you would give someone who maybe just started out in creating their business, and they're also like, I'm like 100% in, I want to make this work like so bad. I've got big goals. They're super ambitious. And you're obviously now like 1 year in. So what would be maybe like 2 other tips or 3 other tips if you want to share for that person?
My first one would be get into a good routine. If you're someone who's going all in, and I'm guessing by that you mean they don't have like another job, or so just make sure you have a really good routine. I actually used to own a business previously in 2020, and just fully was into it, no other job. And the thing that I found the most effective was making sure I got up at the same time, went out and exercised at the same time, was doing the same things day in and day out at the same times, just because that can really help with structure. It's particularly hard if you do work from home. So if you can get some kind of co-working space, they are really, really helpful. Or even just go to the same cafe every single day, just so that you do have that separation from your work and your home life. So that would be my number 1 tip. Trying to think, 3 tips, the pressure.
if there's no other tip, that's also totally fine. I feel like
I might say number 2 is I might say number 2, because I'm like that as well. I'm like, okay, I'm starting a business and it needs to be at this point by this point, and loads of pressure and loads of expectations. I'd probably say my number 2 thing is take each day as it comes. Breathe, stay present. Don't live inside your head. It's not always a great place to be. Just focus on the things that are actually happening, and don't get too wrapped up in the story that your mind might tell you at times. And I think I'll stop there because I don't know if I have any other ones that I can think of.
Alexandra, what are you talking about? Those were so many in one.
Oh, great.
Like your tip number 2 was like loads of tips in one, I feel like take each day as it comes, breathe, stay present, don't go just always into the story that you're telling yourself in your mind. And obviously the first one you say, routine and structure, I feel like that truly is something super important. I remember when I started my business, I was just like, I have 24 hours a day now, so what do I do with this? So it was just like so, I don't know, flowy. And it was just like, where do I even start? Where do I begin? What do I do when? So for me, also, it was really helpful to just get like specific themes for each day and to block certain days for specific tasks. So to have like pure client focused days or to have pure marketing focused days, just so my brain doesn't go into, okay, cool, we can do all of this now, but to actually then focus on just the one next best thing to do.
Yeah, and I think it's particularly hard if you've come from our background working in corporate, where
Yeah.
everything is so structured, everything is office bound, to suddenly having 24 hours a day in your house and not really knowing what to do with it. So it is just about being in that routine and staying structured. And I think what you said makes sense, like having set days for set tasks, and making sure those days don't shift or merge into each other where you can, just to really help maintain that structure. It is so pivotal. And working with a coach can really help. I found that to be really, really helpful for me, especially when I was fully at home. Because
Yeah.
again, it's the accountability piece and making sure that you are doing what you say you're going to do, because it is really easy to get distracted if you don't have that.
But that's where the magic really lies. So I always tell my clients, like, the actual magic in coaching happens between the sessions. Yes, in the sessions we like put in the seed, like we plant something, but then in between the sessions, that's when you have to like put in the actual work. You have to practice, you have to do the action, you have to show up for yourself, you have to stay committed to it, to stay accountable to, obviously, to what you promised to do. It's not a promise to me or the coach, it's a promise to yourself that you got to keep here. And that's also then what's helping you to build that self-trust. But that's where the magic really happens. So it's very often kind of like underrated, almost, this accountability piece, where people are like, oh, it's just like an accountability buddy and they just remind me of my homework, but I will still not do it. But then I'm like, but if you want to see results, you have to put in the work. Like, you can hire any coach you want, but they will not do the work for you unless you hire someone who can do maybe the social media for you or something very specific.
Marketing.
But like a business coach, they will not run the business for you. They help you or enable you so you can run your business most efficiently.
What I found really helpful about coaching too is that they always delved into, like, I've had several coaches throughout my life. So from about maybe 2019, I think I had the first one, and I still work with a coach today. I found that my coaches always can delve into the reason why I might be in my head a lot. For example, if I'm having
Yeah.
fears or a scarcity mindset, they can really delve into, okay, you're not doing this thing, for example. So for the last 2 weeks, you said you would do this thing. Yeah, we're here, week 3, and you still haven't done it. Like, let's talk about that. And often it can come from a place of an underlying fear that you have. And then working with someone to help you unpack that can be super beneficial, because then you realize, oh, actually, it's not that the task is hard. It's that I've made it out to be really hard in my head because I'm avoiding it because of X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I think there's so much value in working with someone else. And it's always good to just have someone to soundboard ideas off of and just speak to. I think it's so underrated, the value of having like a community around you, and your coach is definitely part of that. It's someone that you pay to help you achieve your goals. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love what you say about that, about coaching, because I'm just like, that's exactly what this work entails. It's also like just holding up the mirror and be like, look, this is you, this is what you're doing. Because so often, and that's also why I have a coach myself, even though I am a coach, but just because of that doesn't mean that I am perfect or do all the right things, or that I don't have mindset blocks or anything that I need, that don't need to work through. So because we have sometimes just these blinders on, right? So sometimes it's so helpful to just have someone from outside come in and be like, but what is this? Like, why haven't you done this? What is the reason for this? What is the underlying fear? What is maybe like the mismatch in your alignment with your values, with what you're doing? Like, where's the disconnect and how can we fix that? Because sometimes we are just like so stuck in this kind of like tunnel vision, almost like this is the one way, and we don't even look outside. So yeah, I feel like that is so helpful to just have then. Almost like, I always say it's kind of like a tough love, kick up your peach. Almost,
Yeah.
because very often we don't want to hear it, right? But then when we hear it, then we work through it and we're like, okay, yeah, it was actually needed.
Yeah, 100%. I echo everything you said. It's so important. And I think that more people should have a coach, even if they don't have a business. I think just
Yes.
having one for your personal life or your career or your health. I work with a health coach currently. So I actually have more than one coach. Yeah, I just remembered that. So I have a health coach, a business coach, but any area that you want to focus on and you want to see improvements in, it's so good to hire someone in that area to keep you on track and accountable. I know I wouldn't be hitting my health goals right now if it wasn't for Rianne, who I work with.
That is so good.
Yeah, the weekly accountability sessions really help.
Yeah.
I'm not in person, so there's no avoiding her. So yeah, just having that outside person there to keep you on track is just so beneficial.
Love that. I could talk about this forever, but let's dive into the last section of the podcast. So this is a fire round of questions where you can answer them with one word or short sentence if you're up for it.
Let's go.
Okay, before we dive in, please tell me a number between 1 and 10.
4.
Okay, you get 4 questions.
Oh, great. That's good.
What is the Alexandra way of living and leading your best life?
Being intentional.
When shit hits the fan, what do you tell yourself to get through it?
I usually pray. So I usually ask for external help.
What is your key habit for success?
Staying present.
I love that. What is your favorite book that you would recommend to everyone?
Ooh. I'm reading Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office currently. Great book.
Oh, how many points out of 10 would you give that?
So far, about 8 out of 10. Really like it. I haven't finished it just yet, so I can't give it a full rating.
Okay. But it sounds great. Yeah. Well, I haven't heard of that book yet, so I need to look into that one.
Really, really good. I'd recommend it. My best friend told me about it and I read it like on the same day. So
nice. Fast action. We love it.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. This was super fun to do, and it was such an honor to have you here. Before we wrap it up, is there anything, like any last words that you want to share? Anything that the people need to know about you and your business? And also, obviously, where can they find you and get in touch with you?
Yep. So you can find us at www.unvailed.com. Unveiled is spelled UNVAELD, so not the usual way. And we have a membership portal launching in mid-September. So if you are working in HR or if you are working in diversity and inclusion and you want access, head to our website and you can get that now. It's on an early bird offer.
Ooh, that's so exciting. Well, thank you so much again for coming onto the podcast. I know it was your first time, so just kudos again to you for achieving this other milestone, and I'm celebrating you right now for doing it, for coming on here. And to all the listeners and watchers, I will also put all the links into the description box down below. So do check Alexandra and her business out because she's doing some amazing things here. And with that, I shall see you again next Monday with a new episode. Bye.
Good. Did you dye your hair?
No, this is my natural hair color.
Oh, I love it. Last time I saw you, it was blonde from the root.
Yes, it was. I do miss my blonde. You can still see the last remnants down here.
It looks very cool.
Thank you.